Fotheringay in Northamptonshire is where the gruesome beheading of Mary Queen of Scots took place in 1587. There was a castle built here in the 1500s, although there's not much of it left now. Today this sleepy village presents a chocolate box scene of pretty cottages, and at the centre of Fotheringay is this magnificent church that can be seen for miles around. But to anglers, Fotheringay is far better known for the River Nene that flows through it. It's a river that holds a stock of large, wild and nomadic carp. Now, fishing for these river fish is something of a forgotten art, and that's what we're going to look at in this programme. Now, there are two things that you need to get right before you'll start catching river carp consistently. The first is choose the right location. Now, a spot like this looks fantastic. You've got the bridge, lily pads, rushes, overhanging trees, the works. But it's also right near the road, right near the car park, and it's the spot that a lot of anglers fish. The carp know this and they stay away very often. I prefer to target the more remote areas where they feed very confidently, and I've found a spot, but it's about half a mile in that direction. It's a long walk. Now, the next thing you've got to get right is preparation. Now, this means pre-baiting, and this bucket contains a host of big pellets and boilies. And over the next week, come rain or shine, before work and after work, I'm going to be coming down here to lace this bait into my swim. I want to turn my quiet area into a larder, a little oasis of food that the fish will keep returning to over those days and get used to feeding there confidently. When I return with my mate in a week's time, hopefully I'm going to spring the trap on them. Well, I've been pre-baiting a spot right up that way, about half a mile up that way, where there's a big dead arm coming around that's stuffed full of lilies.
That sounds a perfect spot.
Now, I reckon we're going to split up. That's the normal run of the things on the river, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you're only fishing for small groups of fish, so, I mean, with you heading that way, I don't want to interfere with you, so I'm going that way.
You're going
yeah,
that way?
I'm going that way.
We are on social, it has to be said, aren't we? We'll keep in touch with the old mobiles and just see, because you never know, sometimes one area produces and other areas don't.
Yeah, you can never be, these fish are so nomadic, you can't ever pin it down. It's nothing that's set in stone. You just have to try your best to draw them to you almost.
Yeah, you're not fishing for gnome fish and all that, so, well, let's get on with it and see what happens. May the best man win, sir.
Good luck.
All right, cheers, mate. I said location was important, and this is the spot I've chosen. What we've got here is a back channel springing off the main river. This is their home, this is where they live. In spring they spawn here, in summer they feed in all these lily pads, rushes and weed, and in winter it's a refuge from the floods. We know they're here. Beyond that, you've got a long driveway, a straight, that hardly anybody ever fishes, but the fish move up and down here, up and down all day long. What I've done is set a trap for them. From the far bank, where that fence meets the water, right the way to their front door by these lily pads, I've been laying a strip of bait over the past week, boilies and big pellets, to try and get them used to finding bait in that spot. What I'm hoping is the fish have got confident in eating it, and then what I'm going to do is lay a few traps for them. Right, I've got all my rigs here in 3 stages so you can see exactly how they're made up. The basic part of it is a lead clip system like this. If the fish dives into all these lilies and rushes, the lead can easily pull off if it needs to. Below this, I've got a coated hook link of about 12 inches long, and I've stripped back the last inch of it to give the hook bait some flexibility. Talking of bait, I think it's really important to use a good quality bait. This is my favourite, it's a trigger ice. Not only does it really stink, but it's got lots of food items in it, lots and lots of bits and pieces of good quality grub in there. The fish love eating that. You don't have to use this, you can use a Nash Squid Scopex liver, Solar Bellicam for example, but use a good quality bait, that's the important thing for me. After this, I attach a PVA stocking bag like this one, filled with 3 more 18mm boilies. I've just hooked that onto the hook itself, and the reason for this bag is that once it's cast out and drops into the water, the PVA is attacked and melted by the water, and it leaves these 3 baits right next to the hook bait. It's a source of free offerings right near the hook bait, and hopefully they'll make a mistake with that. Now, tangles are something that a lot of people have problems with, and this is a very good tip for you and an easy way to alleviate them. What I've done is sandwich 2 pieces of dissolving foam. By masking the hook like this, you just reduce the chance of the hook point wrapping up on one of these pieces of weed and potentially spoiling a presentation. All I've got to do now is cast us into the river and catch a carp.
What a lovely stretch of river, but I've got a few problems. Where do you start? 60 foot wide, 5 miles long, and only a handful of very nomadic carp. So what I've got to do is cut the odds down and make the carp come to me. One of the things that this river has got, it's very, very weedy. And one of the ways of getting rid of the bottom weed is by this lovely mixture of ground bait here. It's full of seeds, chopped boilies, all sorts of things. I'll throw that in. Shoals of bream and roach will come along, peck away at it, and clear me an area, just perfect for presenting a bait on. Then I can get round to the real good stuff, putting in the boilies. Give them something that they really want. These baits are crammed full of natural attractors. Shrimp, yeast, tiger nut, all things that carp love. Final part of my plan is to keep my head, unlike Mary Queen of Scots. I'm not going to be tempted with this bit of the river. I'm going to go and look for a feature, and I know just the place. There's one just up there. And this is a great spot. Just look at it. Trees both sides, overhanging natural cover everywhere. It means that the boats have to go to the middle of the river. And as the boats come through, it pushes the silt up at each side, underneath the trees where they can't go, and creates a lovely deep channel. Just the spot to ambush the carp. All I've got to do is concentrate my bait there, plop my rigs on top, and that's it. Just wait for them to come along and come over the bait naturally, because that's where they've got to go. Well, here we are. This is going to be home. And this is what we're going to use on the river. It's quite a standard rig. A sinking leader, which helps keep the line on the bottom out of the flow. We've got a nice, big, heavy lead. Flat sides, so that the flow and the push, the drag on the line, doesn't move it out of position. And then for bait, I've got a normal boilie, but what I've done is tipped it off with a piece of fake corn. Now this piece of fake corn serves two purposes, really great things. One, it makes the hook bait a bit lighter, so it's more like a natural free offering. And the other thing it does is give it that nice little flash of colour, which when Mr. Carp's swimming along, he might just spot it, just catch it out the corner of his eye and think, oh, what's that? Oh, just look at the way that sits, just standing up off the riverbed and that nice flash of colour on top. Just before we get started, I'll just show you one more thing. Now this is a great tip for rivers. Because we're fishing a spot where the river's really tight and compact, I want to fish my bait really tight in that area. So I'm using PVA. Now this PVA bag here is full of chopped boilies, and all I need to do is just nick my hook just gently through the edge of it. It's ready to go, and I'll cast it in, sit on the riverbed like that, and very, very slowly that PVA will dissolve. As it dissolves, it releases all those little bits of chopped boilies, and it's nice tight pile of food just round my hook bait.
Steve and Kev are both using really smelly baits. Certainly, highly attractive baits are great when you're river fishing because they help to draw the fish into the swim, but just how good are carp at picking up that scent trail? Well, this is the carp's nostril. There are two tiny holes, and between them a little tiny flap of skin. The flap of skin serves a very important role. It forces water in through this first hole, over millions of scent-sensitive cells, and then the water passes out of the nasal cavity through this second hole. This means that we're able to pick up certain key trigger amino acids at incredibly low levels in the aquatic environment. We've hidden a few pellets in amongst this woodwork on the bottom of the tank here, and look how these fish are rooting about for them. They can smell them, and they're desperately digging about to try and get them out. So remember that when you're river fishing, use a smelly bait and be confident that it is going to draw fish into your swim.
As Steve prepared to recast another PVA bag of chopped boilies, he was rudely interrupted by me on the mobile. Despite heavy daytime boat traffic, my pre-baited swim had surprised me by instantly producing the goods. Well folks, it's a shame you weren't here for this one, because look at this beautiful linear mirror, probably about £18. Absolutely magnificent. line of scales right along its lateral line in the middle of its body. Put up a fantastic fight. Now that is why river carp fishing on a rural river is so special. This beastie might never have been caught before, might never be caught again. What a fish. What a fish. I just hope it's Steve's turn tonight for one of these.
Well, that's it. Kev's off the mark, but there's still hope. This is the time for me. It's just getting dark, traps are set, and I'm ready to go. This is the exciting time. And what can be better? I've got all this river just to myself. Fantastic.
Welcome back to part 2 of Carp on a rural river. It's the morning, as you can see. Quiet night, strangely quiet night. I didn't land any fish, and yet there were quite a few crashing and boshing out. I keep getting indications. They're here, there's no doubt about it, they're here. Now normally I'd say as the sun gets up, probably 9 or 10 o'clock would probably be the end of the feeding times, but we're getting so many line bites. That's what you hear the indications going there. So it might be a late feeding spell this morning. It's mainly the rods in the far side that are showing the bites, and that's in the shadow of the rushes in the trees and the lily pads. And there he goes. Yep, we're in. He's going for those pads. Just gotta crank him down. This is one of the things about river fishing. Sometimes you have to get your feet wet occasionally. There's all manner of snags and jungle and things. Bit of side strain to try and turn him. He's going for the pads, just turned him. Right on the edge of the pads. Come on, boy, come out. He's kited on a tight line and headed for the pads. And if the fish gets in them, it can be curtains. But equally, you've got to be aware and have your clutch set. These fish are very powerful there. They tend to be long, lean and full of muscle, to be honest. Now you'll notice I've hooked him downstream of where I'm fishing here, but I've actually tried to lead him upstream of my position. The reason being upstream is actually looks a bit less snaggy than all those pads below me, and then drop him down into the net rather than pull him against the flow into the net. That's the plan anyway. Doesn't always work, of course, but gentle pressure. There's no mad rush. Don't forget you've got the extra push of the current running against the fish as well, so whatever pressure you put against the fish, the current's also adding to that a little bit. Ease him up now. A little bit more line. There he is, he's ready. That's it, come on, boy. Oh yeah, a lovely common. Classic Nene common in the net. Oh yeah. A good double. That looks a beauty. A lot of these river carp are long and lean. Look at that, if that was in a lake it'd probably be 20 pounds with a length like that. Oh yes, there we go. There comes the hook nice and easily. Oh yes. Now this is why I love river carp fishing. Is there a better looking type of carp than that? River carp are very different to a lot of lake carp. They're living in a flow all the time. So they're fighting and swimming against that flow, particularly in the winter when you get the floods. And their body shapes do tend to be much longer and leaner than a lot of their sort of more fat-bodied cousins that are living in gravel pits and commercial fisheries. But because the water's quite clear in a river like the River Nene these days, the fish tend to also darken up a lot. So you get these beautiful deep, rich colours, browns and golds and bronzes and things. I mean, you know, you really can see it in this fish, can't you? It is a beauty. It's probably, I don't know, 12 pounds, something like that. But to me, I have to say the weight's unimportant. You know, I go to lakes and catch 30 and 40 pounders, but These river carp, they've just got that extra bit of clout about them, I think. I just love them. They're beautiful. Go on, lad, back in the river. Right, I'm just going to send Steve a quick text message. These mobiles are great. I can wind him up and also find out what he's doing. Message sent.
Had a bizarre sort of night. Plenty of action from the wrong species. And this is another one of those hard-fighting river bream. It's using all its body in the float. And considering the strength of the tackle, it's given me quite a run around. Here it comes. Not exactly what I was after, but saves a blank. Quite a few people would give the right arm to catch fish of this quality. No, that's a shame. It's not a carp, but it's a nice bream nonetheless. A bit of action. A lot of people spend a lot of time trying to catch these species. This one's looking a little bit ragged from spawning. Nice river bream. About 4.5 pounds. Oh, hang on, got vibration in my pocket. Just see, bet that's Kev. Oh, here we go. Well, that's just about my luck. Kev's had another. Ah well. Let's slip this one back. So much for plan A. I thought I got it spot on. Big decision time. Got to decide whether to sit it out and just wait for them to come to me, or whether I've got to go to them. I think that I'm going to go out and look for them. I've got one ace up my sleeve, just a little spot I know, little tiny weir pool. I'm going to go there and go and hunt them out. I've got to do something.
Well, I think I've just about had my action for the day. I'm satisfied with that. But before I move off, I just want to show you one last tip. Now, in a lot of rivers, the daytime can be very slow. The water's clear on lots of waterways, boat traffic's quite high. The carp tend to go a bit quiet. But here's a tip that might just get you that extra fish or two. What I've done here is stuff some PVA bags with some up and down ground bait. It's an active ground bait. Just watch what happens to these bags. As the water attacks the PVA, you'll see that they start to dissolve and then they burst apart. Now you're imagining you've got flow, you've got current and things like that in the water. All these particles that are streaming up off this ground bait will be flowing downstream. The current will be doing the work for you. It'll be taking all these particles and the smell of these particles to the carp. Just imagine if you've got a bit of motion in the water and things like that. Just look at that. All that stuff being wafted away. Now I reckon that might just do the trick. That might get you a bite when everything else is failing. But anyway, that's it for me here. I'm going to go and see if Steve can maybe use something like this to get himself a last gas fish. It's got to be worth a go, hasn't it? I found you then.
Hey,
You've got to be joking.
Oh, no, what you mean?
Well, you catch carp in slow-moving bits or ever, don't you?
Oh, no, this is where they like it, mate.
Now, just while you're winding that in, Steve, just to explain your rig. It's a bit different to what a lot of people would normally use.
Yeah, it's a very simple rig. It's just quite a light inline lead. It's a lot smoother when you're reeling in, doesn't snag on anything. Quite a long hook link, so it waves around in the float. And I've got a small bit of meat on the hair, and then just a PVA bag. These are oil-soaked pellets, and there's lots of small particles of ground bait stuck to them. It's quite simple, just aiming for that little run there, that clear run. It's really deep, it's 10 foot deep just down there.
So it looks like on that particular cast, Steve, you just dropped it just quite short actually over this big bank of marginal lily pads here.
Yeah, I'm sort of working the swim. You never know how close the fish are going to be to you.
Yeah.
So you might as well fish short, and as you move about, perhaps
Yep.
disturb things, and then fish further and further down the swim as you go.
So rather than cast a long way and maybe spook some of the fish that are between you and there, between these banks of lilies and cabbages and all that kind of thing, just work your way down all the time.
Oh yeah, the whole point of it is that's why it's a natural holding area for fish, because there is so many things here in a very compact area.
Shallows, deeps, weed, lots of natural food, food and oxygen being brought to them by the weir here. You know, really, it's got everything going for it, hasn't it?
Oh, it's perfect, perfect.
Oh, was that a bit of a knock? You got him?
Yeah, we're in.
What is it? Chub?
Little
Carp?
chub, no, little chub I think, mate, little chub.
It's Carp Crew, you know, not Chub Crew. It's a good job it's not a carp. I think you'd be water skiing by now.
He's using everything that he can. Oh, he's about 6 ounces.
Here he comes.
Oh dear. That's just the way my luck's been going. A great fish, and it keeps you nice and excited and keeps you on your toes. But that's it.
Is that it?
I've tried.
You're going to call defeat, are you? So what's gone on? Because we've seen that the pre-baiting's worked in my swim. Basically, I had a whole pod of fish just waiting to be caught, didn't I? In your swim, not quite the same way.
No, there was bream and chub there, but no carp.
It's the unpredictability of river fishing, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because that stretch has produced for you in the past, hasn't it?
Oh, that's a really good area. I mean, I've had fish to 28 from that exact swim. You know, it is a very good area, but this time the fish could be a mile downstream, 2 miles downstream.
Yeah, who knows? They just weren't there on this particular occasion. Well, it's been great fishing with you, Steve, even though we've been miles apart. We've had the river to ourselves this weekend. There's been nobody else here. We've caught some fantastic carp. You've seen them for yourself. They've been beautiful fish. That's what river carping's all about to me. It's that out there doing it all on your own bat, catching your own fish, doing whatever you like, going where you want, roaming, roving, just trying to find those fish. It's that pioneering spirit to me. There's lots and lots of uncharted waters in Britain. Go out and find them.